How's it going, everybody? I'm Ron Sparkman, and today I'm really excited that we have a special edition to the Humans to Mars Summit. But I can't be the one to introduce him because it has to be the president, Janet Ivey, that has to do it. So I'm going to leave it over to Janet, and we're going to do this little co-interview with the man, the myth, the legend himself. So Janet, over to you.
Thank you, Ron. And I had the privilege of thanking Bill Nye in a private conversation before we joined you. He was my inspiration for starting Janet's Planet. So I owe him a world, in fact, a universe of gratitude. You know that he's been an engineer. He worked for Boeing on Sunstrand Data Control, which is now Honeywell. And but he also was growing on his strengths in science and comedy, went on to create and write and produce Bill Nye the Science Guy between 1993 and 1998. He's also continued his work in television with The Eyes of Nye, Bill Nye Saves the World, and Bill Nye Science Guy was released in 2017. He's authored several books. I love this one. It's a New York Times bestseller, Undeniable, Unstoppable, and Everything All at Once. And to me, you are the epitome of outreach, science, and just an amazing mentor to so many. Welcome, welcome, Bill Nye. How are you?
Wow. Thank you, Janet. Thank you so much.
My first question, it's like we had the opportunity to be on a panel with Space for Humanity. And at that launch, you said one of the most compelling ideas and premises is that the universe is knowable and that space exploration is the greatest manifestation of that. Talk more about that, because that one struck me, that it was the greatest manifestation of that the universe is knowable.
So that's the premise of the bit, as we say in comedy writing, is that the universe is knowable. And so it's very common to meet people who want to say, oh, no, it's magic. No, it's you just can never understand that. No, that's beyond us. No, but the idea in science is that you can know it. This is my mask, excuse me. I recommend to people to tie a string on it, and that way you keep it around your neck. So you meet people walking down the street, you can put your mask up. When you're real far apart, you can let your mask fall down. All right. In science, you can know the universe. That's the whole idea. And this gets into this business eventually of reductionism, not to get too far along here, but if there's another claim or reasonable point of view that if you reduce things too much, you can't figure out the big picture. Okay, there's something to that. But we would claim in science that that's part of understanding the big picture, is what can you reduce and what you can't. And then people start projecting all these wonderful ideas that photon entanglement is the same as psychic powers. And okay, all that aside. The idea in science is that you can understand everything. And one of the most amazing ideas that comes from space exploration and what everybody likes to call astrophysics nowadays is that you and I are made of the stuff, the dust of exploded stars. So that means you and I are made of the dust of the universe. That means you and I are at least one of the ways that the universe knows itself. Mm. And that just fills me with reverence every day to think about that we are somehow part of the cosmos and we can know that. Now, I spent a lot of time, for example, with dogs. As the old saying goes, some of my best friends. So,
mine too.
But I don't think even the most thoughtful of my dog friends really appreciates the cosmos in the way that humans do. Mm. And people, this year, for example, I grew corn plants, because they're just cool. But I don't think the corn plants have thought of, maybe, but I don't think they've thought about the universe the way you and I can. And that to me is amazing. And we would not have that understanding. We would not have that insight without space exploration.
And beautiful.
I love the fact that you gave me a perfect segue here to go right into my question, which is from interviews and discussions that you've had, that you discussed that you had a particular class from Carl Sagan, and that was astronomy, and it was life-changing. So what was it about him or what he taught that was so transformative to you and so many others?
Well, books have been written about Carl Sagan and his compelling approach. But as a guy who took one class from him, I am not an expert on Carl Sagan. I took one class from him. He changed my life. He's just had a way of speaking, a way of talking about the cosmos and our place within it that really got to me. Now, along that line, my father went to college in Baltimore. He went to Johns Hopkins, and then he was graduated, and his family wanted him to go to law school, and I guess he started it, but he didn't really like law school. And I know many of you out there love law school because it's so much fun and so relaxing. I'm kidding. So he got a job working on Wake Island. If you've never heard of Wake Island, you go to Hawaii and then you go that far again out into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, no place. And so he was bombed on December 8th, which was December 7th back in Pearl Harbor, and spent 4 years as a prisoner of war. And I always tell people, if you get a chance to be a prisoner of war, don't do it. I mean, it sounds cool and exciting, but no. It's a drag, but he became quite interested in astronomy, and he became a bit of an amateur astronomer. And he had me look at the moon through a telescope that was made of cardboard, and the tube was cardboard, and I can remember that smell to this day. Mm. And so I had an astronomy interest going into this thing. But when I took this one class from Carl Sagan, I went, wow, this is amazing. So this was back in the disco era, when Carl Sagan started the Planetary Society in 1980. I joined, got a paper letter in the mail. I like to make the joke that paper, many of the young people may not remember this technology. It's plant-based information storage. But I joined the Planetary Society. I'm a charter member. I've been a member, just contributing, just subscribing to the magazine. I don't know. It was interesting, very cool. Well, it turned out his kids, Sagan's kids, by Andrian, Sasha and Sam Sagan, watched the Science Guy show. They were of an age where they watched the flippin' Science Guy show. So I was invited to speak at Carl Sagan's memorial in Ithaca, New York, which is where Cornell is, where he was a professor. By the way, I went to Cornell probably because of an accident in the admissions department. My goodness. No, the people I went to school with were so flippin' smart. I mean, wow. Anyway, at that event, Lou Friedman, who was the head of the Planetary Society, he was a guy at the Jet Propulsion Lab in the 1970s who was doing the orbital mechanics for the mission that would be a solar sail to catch up with Comet Halley's Comet. Anyway, he asked me to join the board. So I joined the board. Wow. Well, then something happened in 2010. There was a board meeting, and I left the room for some reason, and they took a vote. And now I'm the CEO of the Planetary Society. So Carl Sagan just changed my life. I mean, he just changed my life. And he was all that. And speaking of Andrian, cosmic possible worlds.
Yes,
now,
sir.
Not just on cable television, National Geographic, but it'll be on broadcast. It'll be on Fox starting, I guess, next week. And also next week, coincidence? Next week
I think not.
is my 10th anniversary as CEO.
Ooh, nice.
10 years? What? I don't know, man. So if there are any listeners or viewers out there who are not members of the Planetary Society, I say to myself, what? So here's the deal. If you like birds, you join the Autobahn. If you like the environment, you might join the Sierra Club or contribute to the Sierra Club or the Environmental Defense Fund or something like that. Well, if you like space, join the Planetary Society. We're the world's largest space interest organization, not part of a government. And we are more influential than ever. I go to the U.S. Congress back when you could walk into such places and convince people that we need missions to Mars to look for signs of life so that we can change the course of human history.
And that is the perfect question to ask you. What do you hope to find on Mars?
Well, reasonably, I hope to find some fossilized microbes, some stromatolite style things, where there'd be microbes on an ancient Martian sea that have turned to pond scum and then to stone. And so that would be cool, but would be even cooler, and frankly, I do hope for it, that somewhere under the sand near the equator, where there is still liquid water during the Martian summer, there's something still alive, some microbe. And this is a hypothesis that's extraordinary, but not crazy. It's not ridiculous. It's a real hypothesis that there's something still alive. Mars is smaller than the Earth. It cooled off perhaps 1 billion years earlier than the Earth did. So that means, or that led to it getting an ocean and an atmosphere 1 billion years before the Earth did. So perhaps life started on Mars before it had a chance to start on Earth. Wait, there's more. What if life started on Mars with DNA and all the happy ribonucleic acid sequences that we know and love, got hit with some impactor, some asteroid cometary thing, and woo, 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 some rock, except it's in space, there's no sound. Some rock came and landed on Earth, and you and I are somehow descendants of Martians. Now, that is an extraordinary, extraordinary premise, a hypothesis. However, it's not ridiculous. It's not crazy. And so what I want to continue to do is send spacecraft to Mars so that we can look for signs of water and then signs of life, where life may have once existed or even exists today.
I think I can speak for myself and many of our attendees. We are all hoping that we are part Martian, or will be one day. Ron, what's your next question for Bill?
Well, just let me remind, if that were to be true, it would be profound.
Yes.
Everyone on Earth would feel differently about being a living thing in the cosmos. It would get you right here, I'm telling you. Sorry, well, lead on, Ron. Sorry. Yes.
Oh, you're muted.
Ron, you're muted.
I was like,
there you go.
Yeah, I like that pen. I went and grabbed 8 of them, put them on my jacket.
Oh, nicely done. So, is it a ringed planet, or is it the letter P for planetary? Wait, it's both.
Both.
Whoa, it's a good logo. We got a good logo.
So there's a little birdie named Mary Liz that told me that you're especially excited about the microphone that's on Perseverance. What about that has piqued your interest?
Well, so a couple things. Let's start with talking about the Planetary Society. By all accounts, now, I've heard this story from a few different people. It is absolutely hearsay. I was not there. I cannot verify whether or not it's true. However, the company myth is that it was Bruce Murray. So everybody, if you're not familiar with the Planetary Society, Carl Sagan, Bruce Murray, Lou Friedman were the guys who founded it. They were all men, all white guys back then. And Bruce Murray went on to be the head of the Jet Propulsion Lab during the extraordinary missions of Viking landing on Mars and Voyager, the spacecraft leaving the solar system. All right. He was in meetings in the 1960s with one of the Ranger spacecraft, which was sent to the moon to get ready to win the Cold War by putting people on the moon, when one of those spacecraft was being repurposed to explore Mars, the Mariner missions. And by all accounts, it was Bruce Murray pounding his fist on the table saying, hey, you guys, we got to put cameras on this spacecraft. And apparently there was a large contingent of scientists and researchers who thought that was not important, who thought that photographs, images would be a gimmick and not really worth knowing about. And he was like, no, there's great science in the pictures and both. So we like to promote that idea. And you'll meet people who say that we don't need to put a microphone on Mars because we can determine exactly what everything would sound like. We know the composition of the Martian atmosphere, the density of it, Martian gravity, we know what Martian, whatever gravitational variation, blah, blah, blah. We know the pressure, blah, 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 blah. But imagine a space program without pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Who would even care at all? Nobody. Pictures change everything. And so along this line, I claim that when we can hear actual sounds from Mars, actual sounds from the actual atmosphere of actual Mars, it will change the way people feel about Mars, change the way people feel about atmospheres and sounds and mechanisms and wind and dust devils and every crazy thing else that goes on Mars. And so the Planetary Society has been involved with this for a long time. We put a microphone on Mars polar lander, and it polar landed on Mars just a little too fast to be of any value. This was the spacecraft where the landing gear deployed and apparently shook the spacecraft enough to make sensors think that it had landed on the surface and off the retro rockets. So, or no sound in space. But what would it sound like on Mars? Not sure. So then we tried to get microphones on Spirit and Opportunity. We tried to get microphones on Perseverance. But we have managed, by lobbying people at Jet Propulsion Lab and Applied Physics Lab, Congress, and really a lot of the effort, I believe, belongs, or the credit belongs to our president, who's about to change. We're about to change presidents. Jim Bell, who's at Arizona State University, I think did a lot to get this microphone up there. And Steve Squires, who was his boss back at at Spirit and Opportunity. And Steve Squires now works for Blue Origin. It's a small world out there on this great big one. So anyway, we are very.
Wait, what was that?
The microphone. That's a long answer to why we're excited about the microphone.
You know what? I'm excited.
For 21 years, 22 years. Let's get the flipping sounds from Mars back here.
You know what I think will be amazing is to sample that sound, give it to somebody who's just really crazy. I keep thinking about, it's like I love the music of Will.i.am and the Black Eyed Peas. He broadcast the first kind of song from Mars.
He's a big space guy. He's the real deal. Yeah.
And so I would love to get a sample of those first sounds of Mars, send it over to Will.i.am and say, create this amazing song. Because to me, as somebody whose background is in music and theater, before I sort of launched into my science career, is that to me, music and the sounds of earth or nature and those things it's like whether you're sitting beside a stream in a forest or listening to the leaves tinkle as the wind blows, to hear the sounds of a Martian dust storm and then to be able to sort of process that, I think I do. I think you're right. I think it will be incredibly revelatory. And so that sort of leads me to a question that I always love to ask people. Why? What is your why, Bill Nye? What is your why, Bill Nye?
Well,
Bill. Right. Sorry, I've always wanted to do that.
Love that song. Crazy for that song. So everybody, why do you do anything? Deep within us is this desire to understand the world around us. And our ancestors who did not have that desire did not become our ancestors. The people who didn't want to figure out how to start a fire or where to find food or what the heck to do, they didn't become our ancestors. So deep within us is exploration. And the more we find out about our environment and the world around us, the safer we are. Mm-hmm. And safety is how you pass your genes on and move forward. So a more interesting question might be, have you ever met anybody who didn't want to explore? Have you ever met anybody without any curiosity? Well, maybe certain people in the federal government right now, but really, those people are extraordinary. They're anti-science. It's just weird. And I like to remind people, oh, here, I got one right here. I like to remind people.
This is the coolest office ever, by the way. If you've never been in Bill's office, there's a Jupiter movie globe, and you can see like that's the jacket, by the way.
In the U.S. Constitution, which is now available in paperback, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 refers to one of the jobs of Congress is to promote science and the useful arts. And to me, the useful arts is 18th century expression for engineering, using science to make things like architects, blacksmiths, bridge builders, plow makers, farmers, whatever it would be. And it's in the Constitution because, of course, people have mixed feelings about the founding fathers, especially these days, understandably. But that was a pretty cool idea. And there are people who have argued cynically or not getting it, Lee, that clause was put in there to protect, just to protect copyrights and patents. To which I say, just copyrights and patents? Are you kidding? That's how we innovate. That's where we solve problems that have never been solved before. That's what motivates people. Come on. What do you mean just patents? So anyway.
I have a question.
This whole idea of exploring to make discoveries. I see things coming in on the secret.
Would you be so kind? This is a student of mine here. His name is Alex Kreitz. He says, Mr. Nye, you've done lots of things for science in your audience. What do you believe is the most important thing you have done?
The most important thing I've done? Well, maybe making the Science Guy show. But then what did I do with the other 28 years? I don't know. I just like to think of a life's work, get people excited about science. I'm trying to pass the torch. And I'm really struck by it. We're all very concerned now, and as we should be, about Black Lives Matter and our relationship to our neighbors and to other countries and to each other and all this stuff. But I am trying to pass the torch to people that will take it the next level. By it, I mean our understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. There's talent in every zip code, as Leland Melvin likes to say. And so we want everybody in the world to have an appreciation for science. We do not want everybody to become scientists. There's too many other things that have to be done. And let me tell you, we certainly don't want everybody to become an engineer, because I say this all the time, the fashion consequences alone of everybody as an engineer would be very troubling, very troubling. But just to close no, you don't want that. So what I want to do is get as many people on Earth as possible excited about science so that we can solve these huge problems. We can show scientifically that the only reason anybody's skin is a different color from anybody else's skin is because their ancestors lived pretty much relative to the equator. There's some weather effects in Western Europe and in Ithaca, New York. I kid. It's cloudy in Ithaca a lot. But we are all the same species, and you can prove that scientifically. You can prove it empirically. I mean, people have interacted a lot. Are we allowed to say interacted on Humans to Mars?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Interacted heavily, and every time we interact, all you get is another human. You don't get any new, different thing. And so that we can prove scientifically. And then furthermore, climate change, which is pretty much the biggest problem facing humankind. Climate change was discovered by comparing the climate of Venus to the climate of Mars to the climate of Earth. Without space exploration in the modern era, we wouldn't have been aware of climate change. Eunice Foote did these cool experiments in the middle of the 19th century that indicated it'd be a problem. Mm-hmm. Exxon, before it was ExxonMobil, scientists kind of showed that the business they were in was a dead end, creating this too much carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. But really, the scientific discovery and what motivated Jim Hansen, to go in front of Congress in June of 1988 was comparing the climates of Earth to Venus to Mars. And so it really is an amazing time to be alive. And I am optimistic about the future because the young people are going to take over and get things done.
Bill, if I can
agree more with that statement. And it's like, maybe we've got one. Do you want to talk about at all again about your upcoming book? Do you want us to tell us about what that is?
Yes. Oh, let's talk about that. I'd hold up a copy, but I don't have one yet. No, they don't exist yet.
When does it come out?
Nominally October 27th. But if you live near an independent bookseller, a store, or what have you, they often get them 2 weeks before that.
Okay.
Excuse me. So it's around the middle of October. So it's called Bill Nye's Great Big World of Science. And I believe it's coming out at a really good time for people who are trying to raise kids. It has scientific discussions and demonstration, home experiments that people can do everywhere. And I hope people have a look at it and, buy a copy. There's 20 in a carton. They make great gifts. And so I really am very hopeful. It's I like to say it's the book I always wanted to write because it's got both a combination of discussion of science writ large and these home demos, these home experiments that I guarantee work. I guarantee them.
I'm going to pre-order my copy tonight. I'm a big fan.
The cover looks great. The cover is great.
I can't wait. You know what? I'm such an advocate for hands-on science, and even sometimes if it's paper plates and Pringles cans and creating fuselages out of a Pringle can, because to me it gets that curiosity started, and you never know that point of entry where that's going to trail off and it's going to go.
Your voice broke up a little for me over here. I'm in Pasadena, California. Say it again.
Oh, I'm just a big advocate for the hands-on because I found that even if we're making spacecraft out of recycled materials and we're talking about the different instruments and it's still paper plates and boxes and aluminum foil, that moment of curiosity and that keying into what else is there. You never know from that moment when the kid gets their hands on, it gets kind of like their mind aflame. That's that moment they can trickle down any other pathway or trail.
Yeah, doing it with your hands. However, reading is of great value, everybody. Reading engages you in a way that not like nothing else. And
absolutely.
Imagine a world where somebody said, it's common enough to meet people say, well, I never learned science. I never really liked it, so I didn't learn. Suppose you're back when we can go to a party. Suppose you're at a party and someone says, I never really learned the alphabet. I just didn't really think that was, can you imagine? We want everybody to have hands-on experiences and understand fundamentals of science.
And reading, I'm constantly sending my students something to investigate. Ron, do you have another question before our time is up with Bill? You've been very generous. Thank you so much.
Listen, this is a dream come true for both of us.
Come on, Humans to Mars Planetary Society. We are like-minded individuals. And Matt Kaplan's going to be on later this week, right? Yeah.
You already have, yep. Like
Thank
a few
you
times.
Always. Yeah. And it's like we are always very appreciative of Matt and his amazing voice and being part of his planetary radio. Anything that you just really rousing want to tell our attendees of the Humans to Mars Summit? Anything as we close out tonight? What would you like to say to all of us?
Before we go, Ron, did you have a question? And I will.
I did indeed. Yes.
Sorry.
I haven't lost the thought. I've got a big
No, it's
fun. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I love most about the being an adult and the Bill Nye that I've gotten to know as the author, and you being all about science and putting that out there and trying to tell people I taught you better than this when you were little. What are you doing? How can you deny science? And science communication, science literacy is very popular. It's getting more popular, and it's something that we need. And so Devin Boggs asked this really great question. What advice would Bill Nye give to people to better communicate and share astronomy and the sciences with the greater community, which I think is just, the best thing we can do, right? And who better than Bill?
Well, as far as getting people who are, for example, climate change deniers, getting them on board with science is really difficult. I mean, it takes a couple of years. But if you want to get people excited about the cosmos and astronomy, there is no time like the present, because both Saturn and Jupiter, and the moon, all three are up in the sky right now. So if you have a pair of binoculars, I was at the Grand Canyon a little while ago and I bought a pair of plastic binoculars, but even those are pretty good. And when you look at Saturn or Jupiter, Saturn especially, through binoculars, it changes you. Many times I've had a telescope out and people look at Saturn for the first time through a telescope and they go, wait, did you drop a slide in there? What happened? What did you just do? Because it doesn't look real. It's such a beautiful object. And these rings you've probably heard about your whole life turn out to be real. And so right now, no time like the present when it comes to astronomy.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned Cosmos earlier, because when it comes down to it, I've had a pretty great 24 hours thanks to Humans Mars Summit. Met Leland Melvin yesterday. He had an incredible panel.
All right, Ron.
What's that?
Leland got to meet you.
Well, and then I interviewed Elon Musk, and then today that 24 hours is amazing. But you mentioned Ann Druin, and she's number one for me. If it wasn't for Cosmos, the new series, and her and Steven Soter that wrote it, and Neil is the host, I wouldn't be where I am today, getting to do the things that I do. That first 15 minutes, that mixture of art and science and everything mixed together, put me on an entirely different path. And you are one of those people that did the same thing for so many of us, and I know Janet is one of them as well. So I'm so glad that you brought up Cosmos.
Let me
love you, Bill.
remind us all of one thing, though. Okay. So first of all, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson. People try to add syllables, but in French, I say my ancestors, one side of my family is all a bunch of French people. They just add letters. Neil
deGrasse?
It's
I've heard it so many times.
Gross. So you all know this, as Americans or English speakers or Canadians or Mexican or wherever you are, you know this because you've seen both a Chevrolet, which has a T on the end, which you don't say, and a Corvette, which has two T's and an E on the end, which you do say, one of the T's. So it's Neil deGrasse Tyson. And then Ann's last name is translated from the Cyrillic alphabet. And her grandfather, was from the town of Drew. And so if you're from there, you're Druin. But the way she says it in English, the way you pronounce it in English is Drian, Ann Drian. You get nothing else out of this interview, everybody. Ann Drian says Drian. Don't come running to me. It's not my fault. It's Ann Drian. Now, we had something else we wanted to talk about.
I'm glad I know that, because if I ever meet, who's basically my hero, I don't want to say the last name, be like, I love you. You changed my life. And then say the wrong name. She just gives me the look.
It sure looks like Drew. I'll give you. But the town was called Dree. If I mispronounced it just now, I got caught up in doing the same thing. She says Drian. And if you haven't read, seriously, I'm not invested in this, but Sasha Sagan's book, Small Creatures Such as We, is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. It's pretty insightful. Take a look at that. It's cool. So we had,
and Anne wrote that line. A lot of people don't know that, but Sasha talks about it in the book.
It talks about what?
The fact that Anne actually wrote the line for such small creatures as we. Backwards, I think.
They're good Ithacans, and they respect the elements of style by Willie Strunk and E.B. White, and so they use their pronouns properly. Okay. By their pronouns ye shall know them, my father used to say. So such small creatures such as we. Not such as us. However, when you knock on the door, you say, me too. Of course you do. You don't say I also. Let's be normal here. All right, go ahead.
Last comments, and where everybody needs to go is to join the Planetary Society, correct?
Right on. Yeah. So you guys, another thing it comes up all the time. And I did a talk yesterday electronically, virtually, at State University of New York, Oneonta. And by the way, SUNY Oneonta just had a freaking super spreader event. You guys don't be doing that. Physical distance, wash your hands, wear a mask. Don't make me come over there. And you can talk on the phone with a mask on. It's not rocket surgery. You can do this. All right. So one thing that came up again, we're not going to colonize Mars. The word colony is fallen out of favor. Colonizing has gotten a bad rap because it deserved it. Well, if you ever are going to do it, you all, the young people, you crazy kids out there, you might settle it. But I just like to remind everybody, Mars is fantastically hostile. You know, there's no water on this. I mean, if the water there is very difficult to get to. And there is no food. There's no protein. You know, there's no fish swimming up the river. There's no combination of rice and beans that can give you that's just not there. And the other thing you will notice immediately is that you can't breathe on Mars. You would pick up on that just like that until you suffocated instantly and probably froze to death. So just respect the Earth. As we study Mars and want to send people to Mars to explore, you know, it's been estimated that what our best rovers, driven by our best rover drivers, directed by our best Mars scientists, what those machines and our crew here on Earth can do in a week, a human could do in less than 5 minutes, maybe even 2 minutes. So there's a really good reason to send people to Mars to explore, for sure. And as I mentioned at the beginning, my hope and dream is that we will find evidence of life, or stranger still, something still alive. But as we explore Mars and learn more about Mars, just remember how valuable or priceless, how important the Earth is to your well-being, to our well-being. The Earth is an extraordinary place, and with 3.7 billion years of evolution, which is a result of 4.56 billion years of Earth, we are perfectly suited to live here, perfectly suited. And yes, we explore all over the place, we go wild. But very few of us choose to settle or live our entire lives in Antarctica because it's just too hostile. Mm-hmm. I think you will find the same is true of Mars. With that said, if I had a chance to go to Mars and walk around and come back, I would take it in a moment. So keep exploring, you all. Let's learn more about the cosmos and our place within it. And working together, we can, dare I say it, change the world.
Change the world.
The only home we've ever known. Sorry, I had to get that girl singing in there.
It's a real thing.
You know, I just thank you for your comments. It's always, as we look outward and understand more about who we are, we're always looking back to this precious little blue ball. And may I say to you, good sir, may we always, now and forever, honor this grand, unified star stuff that is in each of us. Thank you so much. Everybody, join the Planetary Society. Please check out Bill's book that is upcoming. Please read about science. Please do your science. And we will, again, we're very grateful for you joining us tonight. Good
Thanks, you guys. And listen to Planetary Radio, Matt Kaplan. Carry on. Thank you.
I want to do one thing. If you do have Audible, Bill reads his own books, and it's super cool for like a road trip. Reading's great too. I've got all your books. I've even got one of them autographed. But the Audible's awesome because it's the voice you grew up with. So you got to check out the Audible too.
Well, speaking of the voice you grew up with, check out the podcast, Science Rules and Science Rules Coronavirus Edition. We just posted one last night. We had a gal on, Zoe. Zoe McCleary, who is studying the statistics or the econometrics of testing. A huge help for the coronavirus pandemic will be if we can get tests that can be not perfect, but very close to perfect, reliable enough so that we can all make decisions about when to go outside and with whom to hang out. You know, in the same way, the same way we all evaluate the weather forecast, 70% chance of rain. If you have a 98% chance of having been exposed to the coronavirus, I hope you will stay home. It's that sort of testing that we want to distribute probably months before any vaccine is available. And that's all science, you guys. That's all science. Carry on. Let's change the world.
All right. And I guess the proper social distanced handshake can just be that right there.
Somebody do a screenshot. I know somebody out there got it. Oh, wait, hold on a second. There we go.
All right. Thank you so much. We will treat Matt Kaplan well on your behalf, good sir. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening.
And Janet, you want to give everybody just a quick rundown of DWEM that we're going to have Dwem here in just a little bit?
All right, coming up in 53 minutes. So everybody, you got a little bit of a break. If you're 21 and up, you can attend tonight's Drinks with Explore Mars. And it's with my friends at the National Space Society. I am also fortunate enough to serve on the Board of Governors. You're going to meet some of my peeps in leadership at the National Space Society. And again, it's all part of our effort to say stronger and better together and bringing advocacy groups across the board together. If we are out here telling you, young people, that yes, you can and you will collaborate and you will represent all of humanity, we are advocating here at Explore Mars and other great organizations like the Planetary Society and NSS that we do it, and we do it all together as one. So tune in just about 52 minutes. You'll be receiving all of those links and how to join. And that's Drinks with Explore Mars. Bill, you're welcome to join us. I don't know if you drink tea or your favorite beverage or whatever that is.
Tea.
Last time I saw Bill, it wasn't tea that we were drinking. Star Talk parties.
Have a great night, sir.